welcome to another video with me, Positive Pussy. First off, I wanted to address the fact that yes, I have been MIA for the past few weeks, and it wasn't on purpose. It was an unplanned hiatus. Once I completed my certification at SFSI and I started a new job, I made a few new videos within those weeks and I just wasn't super proud of them. And then I just kind of stopped doing any of the videos. And I was feeling really depressed as well. And I have actually been previously diagnosed with depression and some minor anxiety. And I was on medication for a short time, and the medication did help, but it also had a lot of side effects. And as some previous viewers might already know, I already have enough trouble with birth control and side effects and trying to find something that works for me. So I just could foresee the struggle that I was going to have of finding an antidepressant that had side effects that I could handle and still worked and was effective. And thinking about that whole struggle was so daunting in itself that I decided to not go on medication and to try to use meditation and some other thought practices. And, I went to yoga a lot, and also I would self-medicate with cannabis. And cannabis actually has helped me a lot with my anxiety and depression. I wasn't always as knowledgeable on the topic of cannabis as I am now. Cannabis always hasn't been so available to me, so I wasn't always as able to use cannabis in a more of a medicinal way. But that's why I'm really excited to do a video on this topic, because cannabis has so many benefits and it can be really helpful if you do use it mindfully and use it for a certain purpose and pay attention to your doses and the strains and everything. Cannabis is definitely moving away from being something that stoners and burnouts use to dull their senses, and more of something that everyone can use to enhance their everyday experience in all aspects. So today I'm really happy to be back here with an educational episode on sex and cannabis. Now that cannabis and marijuana is legal for recreational use in 10 states, plus the District of Columbia, the concept of using cannabis purposefully and mindfully is starting to catch on. There is a human being who I absolutely love and I follow on a lot of social media outlets, is Ashley Manta, and she is a sex educator and canasexual. Canasexual is a term that she coined to describe anyone who mindfully and deliberately combines sex and cannabis. I am going to post a link to her website because she is definitely a great resource for anyone who wants to mix sex and cannabis. She has lots of articles that she's written and lots of resources, and definitely way more information than I could ever fit into a video. Myself, I would definitely consider to be a canasexual because I not only use cannabis for sexual activities and for my sexual health, but I also put consideration into the products that I use for sex because I do it specifically to enhance that activity that I am going to do. I and many others use cannabis for sex and all sorts of things. Cannabis can be an amazing tool with many, many benefits that anyone can use for many different reasons. For me, I have crazy anxiety and hyperactivity at night, so I love to cure that with some sort of indica. Helps me go to sleep, whereas during the day, some of my depressive moves and lack of motivation is helped by hybrids that calm my mind and energize my body. For sex, there are some strains that I find that get me in the mood. I've found that mostly hybrids are the ones that tend to do that trick, which makes sense because you would want something with more of a balance. But before I dive deeper into strains and how to pick a strain for a sexual activity, it's best to get some basic cannabis information before we dive into all of the sex parts of the sex and cannabis. There are a lot of ways to feel the effects of cannabis. One way is to smoke it. Another is through topicals or transdermal applications, aka it's absorbed through the skin. Another way is by eating it in an edible. There are two types of strains that you should know about. There's sativa and indica, and a mix of the two is called a hybrid. Sativas are the head highs, the creative and energizing, silly thought highs. These can affect people in many different ways. Some people, it makes them really hyper and active, and some people, they get paranoid. Some people get overly giggly. So if you are a sativa person, you're probably using it to energize yourself, get up off the couch and be productive or creative or focus on something. Indicas are the body highs that stimulate appetite, slow down your body, give you some nice sensations in your muscles. They ease pain. Indica means into couch. It affects everyone differently, and it also depends on the strain. Honestly though, indica and sativa and the way that these make you feel are only a general rule, because what really determines how you feel is the ratio of THC to CBD and the terpene profile of the strain. Terpenes. If you work in the cannabis industry, you'll have heard this word before. Because cannabis has been so crossbreeded and there's so many different hybrids out there, indica and sativa don't really mean so much, but they do kind of give you an indication of what the terpene profile for that strain will look like. It's not always super accurate. A sativa might not actually have sativa-like terpenes, and it might actually not make you feel like a sativa. So following that might not always help you, but it is a general rule that indicas tend to have more of the terpenes that make you sleepy. For example, myrcene. Myrcene is a terpene that's also found in hops. It's a muscle relaxant and a sleep aid. And indicas that couch lock you tend to have a higher concentration of CBD and more myrcene in them. CBD is the cannabinoid that is more of the body high. It gives you none of the psychoactive effects that THC does, but it does make you feel relaxed and comfortable in the body. So you would expect that an indica would have more myrcene in it, whereas a sativa might have more of the citrus terpenes in them because it's going to energize you and make you feel creative and focused. None of this really matters that much if you don't really want to pay attention to the terpene profile. You don't have to. You could just go by strains. But the more you know about a specific strain, the easier it will be to kind of figure out what parts of that strain it was that made you feel this way, and the easier it is for you to find other strains that will make you feel similarly. And if you're trying to get on the bed with your lover and not stuck on your couch, the strains that have maybe a lot of CBD and myrcene might not be too helpful. However, many people look to cannabis to help them relax and get out of their head so that they can get in the mood, which is why throwing CBD out completely wouldn't be such a good idea. For sex, finding a good balanced strain, one that can help you focus on the task at hand, the sex, while also relaxing you enough to not be inhibited by all the thoughts and worries that many people have, and finding a good balanced dose of this strain is key. And some strains are better at this than others, and some strains will make your body feel electric. Some strains will make you feel like butter. Some strains will make you want to eat everything covered in butter. And some strains will make you want to clean the whole kitchen. I've experienced all these different highs and many more, and while eating an edible and laughing for 30 minutes is fun, it's not exactly helpful for sex. What cannabis can help you with, though, is relaxing. Sexual encounters can be nerve-wracking experiences, and if you're there to enjoy yourself, which is what sex is for, then relaxing those nervous thoughts and feelings can get you in the moment. Feel what is happening and pay attention to the sensations rather than all the thoughts that are going on in your head. Sometimes during sex, people report feeling too in their head, aka they're thinking too much about what their partner is thinking, about some insecurity that they have, or even just about the day, and not thinking about the feeling and what's happening in that moment. They're not able to focus on their own body or their partner's body or what's going on so much. They're in their head. So getting a little bit or even a lot high can help you slow down and get those thoughts on the task at pussy. get it, like task at hand, but task at pussy. Speaking of slowing down, cannabis can also help you do that. Sometimes foreplay is forgotten or skipped over, and cannabis can help you heat up the moment gradually, especially if you're deliberately using cannabis before sex with the intention of using it to slow down and get into your body and really enhance that experience of touch and sensation. It's kind of like its own foreplay to smoke a joint naked in bed. And when the intention of being sexy afterwards is there, it'll help you to enjoy all of those moments building up to that. People also like to use cannabis rather than alcohol when they're going to engage in sexual experience because being high relieves their inhibition without making them inebriated or desensitized to feeling. Cannabis typically doesn't affect erections, but we've all heard of whiskey dick. The only downside that I find when smoking weed and trying to have sex is the occasional dry mouth, but that can be solved by having water nearby. And pro tip, biotin is super helpful for dry mouth, especially when you're trying to suck a dick after smoking a bowl. So there are lots of reasons to use cannabis to enhance your sex life overall, and studies show that cannabis users on average have more sex than non-users do, so we must be doing something right. So the question is, how do you find a product that's going to enhance your sex life the way that you want it to? My answer, and most other people's answers, is experimentation. A good place to start, though, is deciding what you need cannabis to help you with. If slowing down and relaxing is what you need to do, a low dose of an indica or an indica-based hybrid would be helpful for that. If it's getting over pain or increasing sensation, then a CBD topical or an indica with a heavy body high could do the trick. If it's getting in the mood to begin with, then a euphoric hybrid might be the strain for you. The way I discovered that Pineapple Express makes me horny is by using Pineapple Express one night and feeling horny afterwards. I was super receptive to my partner's touch and my pussy felt all tingly, and so after that, I realized I was more responsive to sexual stimuli when smoking Pineapple Express, so I started smoking Pineapple Express to become horny. This probably isn't the only strain that would make me horny, but not all of them do make me horny. How many times am I going to say the word horny? So now I smoke Pineapple Express with that intention. It seems to make my skin and my clitoris more sensitive, so to me, that strain enhances my sex drive. Finding a strain that will enhance a sexual experience is like finding something sweet in a candy store. All strains are going to get you high, so they're going to enhance something. But not everyone likes the same candy, and not everyone is looking to enhance the same aspects of sex. To find a strain, it's best to figure out what you want from your sexual experiences or what is blocking you from having the sexual experience that you want, and then experimenting to find a strain that helps you overcome this. When you try a new strain and you start experimenting, figuring out the dose of this strain is something that also might take some trial and error. Some people are more affected by sativas than indicas, and everyone has their own tolerance level, and you could even have a tolerance to, say, smoking over edibles. So if you're experienced, it'll be easier to feel this out and figure out how high you need to be to feel the effects that you want to feel. But if you're not experienced, then start slow. You can always do more, but you can't do less. And if you like to vape or you like to smoke, you can always do that throughout foreplay if you think that you need a little bit more. So think about how it is you want to feel during sex, and then try to find a strain that is going to make you feel like that. There is a strain finder tool that I'm going to post a link to, but also I'm going to list some strains that Caliva, a company that makes cannabis products, says are good strains for getting in the mood or for sex. Drama Queen apparently is a good sativa for stamina. Super Sour Diesel is good for inhibition and getting excited, and Granddaddy Purple is a good indica for heightened body sensations and relaxation and a calming, focusing mental state. Granddaddy Purple definitely sounds like a strain I would like to experiment with before sex. Definitely going to do that soon. In some cases, though, the work is done for you, and there are products specifically made for mixing cannabis and sex. I've seen edibles, I've seen vapes, and topicals that are made with sexual activity in mind. I've tried the edible called Amore by Sensi Chew, And while I got high, I didn't necessarily feel in a sexier mood. And I was at a sex party, but I was super tired, and edibles, they tend to hit me really hard. So maybe an edible is not the best route for me, but it would be worth it to try it again in a smaller dose and maybe in a time when I've had some more sleep. But just keep in mind, even with products that are made specifically for sex, sometimes there is still work to be done on the consumer's part and some trial and error to figure out how it's going to work best for you. With that being said, there is a product I've heard really good things about called Velvet Swing. It's a cannabis infused water-based lube, so it's compatible with all condoms, which I think is really great. It's a product I've been trying to get my hands on for a while, and as someone living in California where recreational weed is legal, for those of us over 21, you would think that it would be easy for me to get my hands on something, but I think it's just really popular because I can't seem to find it. Every time I go to a dispensary, they don't have it, and I don't really want to drive to San Francisco, but I know some people in San Francisco who have used it, and they say it's really awesome, and so I'm definitely looking for it, and I want to try it, and I will try it soon. And I'm going to post a link to some of the reviews of that and to their website. But apparently it's really easy to use with yourself or with a partner. It's for men and women, and it's available in California and Washington. Another company that makes sexual wellness products using cannabis is Foria. Their products are available in Colorado, which is where they're based, California, and I think Washington, but don't quote me. However, they do make CBD products where it's just CBD only, and you can order that from wherever you are in the world. You just buy it online. CBD is legal, it's non-psychoactive. But Foria makes products for sex and sexual health. They have a few different products, not just a lube, but Foria Pleasure is pre-lubricant. It's for women specifically, and it's to enhance sexual pleasure. It's like a spray. You're supposed to spray it on your outer body in the genital area and wait about 30 to 40 minutes for it to take full effect. And it is coconut oil, so it cannot be used with latex condoms, but they say that on their website. And they also have really good reviews. And a lot of their products look really, really useful, and I definitely want to try a few of them. I definitely want to try Foria's period relief products because holy fuck, my period is getting revenge on me for suppressing it for over a year. If you can get your hands on Foria products or Velvet Swing, I think those are definitely both worth trying out and mixing with some sexual activity, whether masturbation or with a partner or in an orgy. Foria and Velvet Swing are both topicals, meaning they go on the skin and they're absorbed that way. Topicals are super great because they don't come with the psychoactive head high that you get from smoking or doing an edible, but because of this, you're not going to calm your thoughts or help you focus or give you any whole body sensations. It's going to only really affect the area that it's applied to. But if that area is your genitals and it feels better and sensations are heightened, then that may draw your focus to that area, giving you better orgasms, in theory. So you can always use other topicals in the genital area. You don't have to use the two brands that I mentioned. You could probably get some just CBD oil or something from your local dispensary and mix it with your favorite lube. Just remember that oils are not compatible with latex condoms. They break it down. So if you have a topical that you're using, just check the ingredients and make sure it's safe to use on sensitive skin, and just make sure if it has oil in it that you don't use latex condoms, but just on the safe side, maybe use a different kind of condom. Besides topicals, the other smokeless option is edibles, and oftentimes these are going to be dosed for you, but they usually take a long time to kick in. But I think that edibles are a really good option because chocolate is really sexy, and chocolate, when it has cannabis in it, is even sexier. But it's also helpful if you are going to be having sex later, you want to do a lot of foreplay or something like that. Having it not kick in right away might be useful. So it really depends on how fast you want to feel it and where you want to feel it and how you want to take it. That's what she said. Ooh, that's what he said. Honestly though, it doesn't matter how you use it or what strain you use. If it works for you and it feels good, then that's what you should do. If you're going into a sexual encounter without a goal and you're unpressured and you're open to the experience and focused on the sensation and you're in the moment paying attention to your partner, then you're probably going to have a satisfying session regardless of cannabis use or not. So the last thing I wanted to talk about with sex and weed is the huge stigmas against them. There is a stigma around sex and shame and talking about sex, and there is a stigma around cannabis consumers and weed in general, and people who don't participate in the cannabis industry as either a customer or an employee. I don't think that they understand how much the cannabis industry has changed in the past 5 years or even the past year. I love helping people overcome shame and overcome the stigma that they have by actually talking about the things without being ashamed and discussing pleasure and discussing being high and how it feels and enjoying cannabis and enjoying sex. If people can talk about how shit-faced they got at a bar or how they were blackout drunk in a club, then I feel like I should be able to talk about how I smoked an awesome strain that happened to make sex a whole lot of fun. So I hope this video inspired you to start or continue to mindfully mix cannabis and sex, and maybe try out some cannabis products and some cannabis lube maybe, or split a joint with your boo and just go at it one night. I'll be posting links to some resources that I used for this video and some other articles that I found, and links to the websites of the brands that I mentioned for the cannabis lubes. I will try to stay on top of uploading videos because this is one thing that makes me happy, along with sex and cannabis. So stay high, pussy.